Did you ever wonder what Elvis ate before performing his greatest hits? Or which food Marilyn ate in her trailer before shooting iconic movie scenes? You'll never guess what unusual delicacies celebrities craved at the height of their fame. When people think of Marilyn Monroe, they think of a lot of things. Beauty, all-time top-tier actor, the it girl of the century, but nobody ever seems to mention her foodie streak. That is right. Miss Monroe was a very devoted appreciator of the culinary arts, or in other words, she loved to pig out whenever she could. The fact that you probably are not too aware of that side of her proves the lengths that celebrities go to so that they keep up a certain healthy and athletic appearance. You would be surprised to know that Marilyn Monroe would make her own food and visit all the most popular eateries in Hollywood. In an interview with the Pageant magazine in 1952, she talked a bit about how people think her food tastes are bizarre because she is willing to try anything, and that included things like raw eggs and warm milk, a stuffing made with 18 different ingredients including both beef and chicken, hot fudge sundaes, and warm cereal. As you can see, her taste buds can be described better as a spectrum rather than a specific preference. But who knew she was so open to trying things? While Elvis is known for breaking every record and milestone in Hollywood and the music industry ever imagined, people who were close to him may remember him for his kind of strange obsession with peanut butter and banana sandwiches. His topping of choice was some fresh-cut bacon, and the bread would be ever so slightly toasted, adding the faintest of crunches to the texture. His cousin, Danny Smith, said that he loved beef burgers from Crystal, which was a fast food chain in Memphis, Tennessee, and claimed that he would devour almost double-digit amounts of the food. He would occasionally dabble in hot dogs and bologna with barbecue sauce, and he loved starting his day with a banging Spanish omelet. That is a pretty American selection of favorite foods besides the peanut butter, bacon, and banana sandwich, which is honestly still a little lost on us. If we talk about a career that could rival Elvis Presley's, then it is only fair to mention Michael Jackson and no one else. But while their success as artists is comparable, their taste in food is not. While Elvis had a bit more savory palate that was relatively tame, Michael loved Mexican food and regularly ate smoked red chili enchiladas. He loved all things spicy and tangy and was often seen with a bottle of hot sauce, which was usually Moroccan, at his table. Especially whenever he would be enjoying some grilled tofu shish kebabs. Where do these people get this kind of stuff? While it is relatively known that Michael genuinely did try to live a healthy lifestyle due to how physically demanding his concerts and stunts would be, he was known to get busy with a bowl of M&Ms from time to time, sparing no mercy to the rainbow-colored candy as he devoured more than a reasonable amount. The timeless pop star fueled himself time and time again before shows and tours this way. John Lennon is our favorite Beatle. Let us know who yours is down below. But before that, let's talk about what this legendary musician preferred to pass the evenings with. An interview with John once revealed that he deeply loved all kinds of curry, jelly, and tea. But multiple sources have also said that he is a dedicated believer in English cuisine. Black pudding, toast, marmalade, and the usuals were all very regular parts of his daily eating habits, and he loved to start his day with some cornflakes. John particularly liked bird's custard, and his favorite tea happened to be Earl Grey. A pretty refined list of items, and honestly, we did not expect much different. He just seems like an Earl Grey kind of guy, you know? We can safely say that John Lennon had quite the sophisticated taste for his time. It seems like a well-rounded meal that could be a part of our diet even today. John Lennon was a pretty serious guy, not one for many words, but not really the sort of bloke who wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. Charlie Chaplin was perhaps the opposite, as people remembered him for his charisma more than anything. Not to say that Johnny did not have anything worth speaking of in that department. We think both of them would have gotten along well since Charlie loved English cuisine just as much as John did. And when he was once asked for his favorite dish, he proudly said English steak and kidney pie, the former of which he even has a personal recipe for. Some other dishes that almost made the cut for Chaplin's top one were stewed tripe, lamb stew, and curry, which is another thing he could have bonded with the old Beatle over. He really does not look like the type of guy who would enjoy English cuisine too much, right? Or maybe we are just thinking about it too hard. Before you heard this from us, what did you think his favorite food was? Let us know in the comments. Frank Sinatra, on the other hand, kept it strictly simple. On his table, you could find spaghetti pomodoro, sausages, meatballs, and usually some Sunday sauce. When he felt like fancying it up and going for a real five-star vibe and experience, he would go for some fusilli with garlic and anchovies with lemon ricotta torte for dessert. Actually, Frank was a big admirer of all things pasta, and he particularly liked veal Milanese. While English, American, and Spanish cuisine has made a feature on this list so far, you can thank Frank for representing Italian, since most of his go-to comfort food consisted of Italian dishes. This was not an acquired taste, by the way, but one he inherited from his parents, who were Italian immigrants that had just moved to New Jersey when they had Frank, and during his childhood in the streets of Hoboken, he developed a profound appreciation for the cooking of his parents' homeland. He drank like a USA man, though, with the rusty nail being his favorite drink at the bar. Cannot fault a man for loving his whiskey, can you? Actually, he only preferred whiskey. Maybe it is something about R&B singers and melancholic drinks. Another fan of Italian-style spaghetti and meatballs was the iconic James Dean, an actor who made waves that will not ever be forgotten in Hollywood's history. For James, dinner usually was a fork in the road between a perfectly baked pizza and fresh spaghetti noodles with the most juicy, tender, and flavorful meatballs the best chefs of America at the time could whip up. Unfortunately, James was not nearly as talented in the kitchen as he was on stage, unless he was cooking for his Siamese kitten Marcus. James did have one favorite in particular that he could not ever really let go of. That was his Aunt Hortense's banana salad, which was his all-time favorite comfort food. That is pretty high praise when you consider that James almost exclusively ate comfort foods, especially when he was filming or on set, like when he filmed The Giant. James loved places like the Hamburger Hamlet, a popular eatery in Hollywood at the time, and he never said no to a generous and tasty meatloaf or abalone salad sandwiches. Carrie Grant took the poultry game to the next level when it comes to celebrities because he enjoyed a mean barbecued chicken like nothing else. People around him who had tried his idea of a premium barbecue chicken thought he was reinventing the dish itself. It just went to show his profound love for all things meaty. And in fact, Cary Grant almost only ate savory foods like mushrooms and tuna fish pie, mushroom canapé with a side of Tabasco sauce. However, the recipe that was at the front page of his cookbook was always the infamous barbecue chicken that he held dearly in his heart. Despite being born in Bristol, England, Grant himself does not share too much in common with his country's food choices. Grant actually baked his chicken at 300 degrees, despite most standard practices recommending you to cook it at 345 at the very least. He claimed that it added a tender touch to the meat. Nothing says America like some explosive barbecue, really. Paul Newman was both a talented actor and a visionary director, but before all of that, he was a boy growing up on the streets of Cleveland, Ohio, which ultimately influenced his idea of the perfect meal. Paul Newman would always have things like pot roasts, noodle-based dishes, mashed potatoes, salads, hamburgers, and more comfort foods that you would expect to find in a teenager's lunchbox during recess. We guess he figured out much earlier than the rest of us that not letting your inner child die is the key to a happy life. For his wife, though, he took a more sophisticated approach, as he would prepare caviar with cucumbers. In terms of what the man liked to eat to satisfy his sweet tooth, we know that might be hard to believe, but even the famous Paul Newman had a sweet tooth. He preferred rum raisin ice cream. We are not sure if he liked eggs, but what we do know is on the set of Cool Hand Luke, during filming, his character had bet that they could eat 50 hard-boiled eggs. Paul actually managed to eat them, or at least that is what we think and would like to believe. Sounds a lot cooler than fixing the scene up in post-production, right? Any other actor on this list, excluding Marilyn Monroe, would struggle to compare to the sheer pop culture sensation that was Audrey Hepburn, an actress born with a gift that she knew she had to cultivate and share with the world. The world has sung her praises in every corner, and rightfully so. But let's talk about what was behind the icon, behind the glitz and glamour of stardom. If you take a closer look, you will find a woman whose son, Luca, would swear up and down that Mom had a serious pasta addiction. Thank you, little Luca, for putting it so clearly. because you spoke for us and her in that moment. Audrey would often be found busy going to town on a plate of pasta, and her friends would often be surprised at how she could manage to not only keep that diet up daily without getting bored, but how she could have the same dish twice a day. Hepburn often growed her own ingredients like tomatoes and basil in her garden, and she would even take dried pasta with her in a suitcase secretly. That is definitely impulsive behavior, but who can blame her? A good plate of pasta brings the best and worst out of us. Not only did Audrey deeply appreciate the Italians for making pasta what it is today, she agreed with how they would eat their meals. Audrey always believed in taking her time to properly savor and experience her meal. And her son recalls how nothing could come in between her and her meals. Maybe meals is the wrong word since it implies variation, but it really was just pasta all the time. Speaking of icons who have become household names, what do you think the great Walt Disney himself ate? Candies and marshmallows or eggnog, perhaps a cozy ratatouille? Nope. Mr. Walt was a deep believer in a hot bowl of chili. Walt was a Midwestern boy, and that showed in his taste buds. His wife would recall how much he loved basic homely dishes like meat and potatoes, but his relationship with chili just went a step above the rest. Chasen's in Beverly Hills or home, Walt would be happy to try out chili wherever he could. At his own residence, he preferred a mix of Denison's and Gebhardt's canned chili, and even at the Disney Studio commissary, he would always keep some canned chili with him. If you go to the commissary today or Disney parks, you will find Walt's famous chili on the menu at almost all of them, as they took his homemade recipe and kept it in circulation as a way of paying respect. It also helps that chili is one of the more fun and creative foods on this list. With a lot of celebrities opting to eat healthy, Walt Disney decided explosive tastes like chili was the route he wanted to go. That is quite commendable. Elizabeth Taylor was always on a strict diet to keep up appearances, but nothing says glowing skin like a happy soul. And what is the way to that? Your favorite dishes are served hot and fresh. In her case, that meant a simple patriotic scrambled eggs, bacon and mimosa at daybreak, and French bread that would be stuffed to the brim with peanut butter and bacon with lunch. Other items she particularly enjoyed was cottage cheese mixed with bacon, but what set her spirits right back up after a long day of being the world's most stunning woman alive was fried chicken with thick and heavy gravy and a big helping of mashed potatoes. No matter how much you want to keep that midriff showing and that waist in the 20 to 30 inches range, nothing works quite the same as some crispy fried chicken, nicely made eggs or bread and bacon. It is the simple things in life that make adulthood so much more bearable. And Elizabeth Taylor was most definitely enjoying her favorite food, even if diets were strict. Maybe her and Marlon Brando could have shared a meal bonding over peanut butter given how much both of them liked it. Maybe that is all their eating habits have in common, since Marlon Brando was notorious for his incredibly huge breakfasts, with things like cornflakes, sausages, eggs, and cream with bananas. Plus a huge mountain of pancakes. It really did look like a scene right out of Scooby-Dooby-Doo. You know when Shaggy and Scoob would spend 5 minutes crafting the most impossible sandwich ever? On the other hand, it kept him energetic and healthy throughout his career. His co-star during Marlon's time on The Men, Richard Erdman, expressed how much Brando would love things like peanut butter and milk. However, despite how healthy his breakfast options seem, it seems that during work, his preferences would fluctuate a lot. Richard would remember how he emptied jars of peanut butter, gorged himself on cinnamon buns, and ravaging boxes of Malamars and Chinese takeout. Whatever gets you going, we are not anyone to judge, really. People hear Humphrey Bogart and think of heavy drinking and scotch, but he loved grease as much as he loved his liquor. Ham, eggs, and bacon were his go-to options, with the occasional steak or three. Mutton chops for dinner worked just as well. Humphrey's wife also recalled how frustrated she would get with his eating habits, saying that he often had a very single-minded approach. He ate like a kid, drank simply, and never complained or thought about changing his routine. Is it as flashy as 7 different exotic dishes from Bali, Okinawa, and Paris? Maybe not. Is it as technical as what a professional chef could serve up, like many often do for celebrities of Humphrey's level? Definitely not. It still made him more than happy, though, and we cannot really blame the guy for not wanting to fix a perfectly working clock. Plus, whoever really gets tired of steak? Not us. Steaks might just be a food that will outlive all the dishes we have mentioned on this list. Speaking of a high-octane, heavy-protein diet, Grace Kelly was definitely one celebrity to look towards when it came to dishes of that nature. She often viewed her food more as fuel than an experience for the senses and ate like an athlete more than a successful millionaire. Her days would begin with breakfast, and that would keep her full and energized till lunch, where she would usually have carrot sticks, celery sticks, and dried apricots. Her protein usually looked like red meat, lean beef, veal, and all other kinds of poultry and fresh game. Grace never really had much of a sweet tooth and tried to stay away from high-calorie desserts as much as she could, but even she was human, not a machine that needed to be refueled. To that end, she would have green tea mixed with honey to satisfy her glucose cravings. If you ever admired her build, she was definitely all natural. Despite being a princess with all the sophisticated tastes of royalty, she could not turn down a crispy chicken breast with mushrooms and spinach. Everyone is vulnerable to the allure of crispy chicken, royalty, and the general public alike. Whether that means being served a plate by a proper cook or going to Popeyes for a three-piece meal, the key to happiness is often under a pretty dense layer of breadcrumbs and oil. Did this list make you realize how much people have in common with their favorite celebrities and idols? Share your thoughts and give us a like if you enjoyed the video.